Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to 22 Panels. My guest tonight is Robert Mailer Anderson, whose new book, Fairy Godfather, will be comes out Wednesday. So probably by the time people are listening to this, they can go to their comic shop and buy a copy. Uh, I read it last night. It's fantastic. Robert, welcome. How's it going?
Thanks for having me on. It's going very well, very
Yeah.
well.
Uh,
Despite the Dodger hat, but
Well,
we'll
I mean, I can
finish.
here just for you. I'll switch to a Cubs
Okay, Cubs are
playoff
fine.
cap.
My wife, by the way, we didn't mention this, but my wife is from her family's from Chicago, so they
Oh,
were
okay.
and Ernie Banks, much better, much
There
better. Now
you
we can
go. There
talk.
you go. We'll throw on
Yeah,
the Cubs cap.
yeah.
Like I said, it was just random this morning. I'm a as we were talking off air. I'm a baseball fan. It's actually probably 75% of the time I'm in a Negro Leagues cap. So I
Yeah.
would have been like impressed if you knew the cap that I was in.
I
Um,
it's
that's
possible. I
my
have a
thing.
bunch of Negro League uniforms and
Oh, nice.
old single A ball uniforms. We were talking a little
All
bit, and
right. Are you
yeah,
are you an
that's
Abbott's flannel geek like I am?
I'm yeah, absolutely. Bam, bam, right
I,
there.
I I wish I had more money. So far, I only have the three jerseys, but one of them's a Willie Mays.
Oh, there
I've
you
got
go.
I've got a Minneapolis Millers Willie Mays jersey.
Say hey. I'm still trying. I'm
Uh,
really hoping at one point my dad played for the Waycross Georgia Braves, and
okay,
Hank Aaron did too. So I'm waiting for them to put out a Hank Aaron, Waycross Georgia Braves, and
that
I'll
would be
just
fantastic.
change the number to my dad's old number.
That would be very cool. Very cool. So just because
Now
we've
we're on
all
neutral ground. We're on neutral ground now.
right, we've already proved over the last half hour that we can go on all sorts of tangents when we're left to our own devices. So before we wind up doing that on the record, tell me about My Fairy Godfather because, we're here to sell a book.
Um, well, it's a story of a girl who tragically loses her parents, and she's from liberal Austin, Texas. And her parents leave in her will that she should go live with her gay godparent in liberal Kansas, which is not a very liberal place, but it happens to be the hometown of Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. And her new godparent also manages the local single screen movie theater that he inherited from his parents. And so he was raised at the cinema. And the town, which is fairly homophobic, takes it to a next level once they realize and are upset that she's the guardian of this child. Meanwhile, her uncle and aunt are both upset that they weren't chosen to take care of her and try to throw a monkey wrench into things too. But essentially, it's the catalyst for these people to figure out who they are in this world, and to create empathy for each other's situation, and to realize that everybody's carrying their sorrow, and they're also trying to carry their joy forward.
Yeah. It's
It's also about, I think, about a lot of things, but it's also
yeah,
about, I think, one of the themes I realize that I tend to write about is how the world really tries to define people, our culture and stuff, but people have to have their own self-definition, and then they try to self-define, despite the culture. If someone were to ask me who I was, I would say, I'm a father of four, I'm a
right.
Californian ninth generation, I've been married 25 years, I'm a writer. And people say, whoa, 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 are you heterosexual? And I'd say, yeah. And they'd say, well, okay, but that's first. And you'd say, no, not at all.
No.
Like, that's not the way I define myself. Well, this guy, Adam, the main fairy godfather, would probably say he's a cinephile, he's a jock, he's a
Right.
Kansan. And the people say, wait, 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 wait a minute, aren't you homosexual? He'd say, yeah. He'd say, okay, that's first. He'd be like, not on his list, but the world is making him more of that of an issue than he would make it. And yet then he has all of the pluses and foibles and complexities of anybody else. Like, maybe he wouldn't want to engage in public displays of affection anyway, right?
Right.
He doesn't have
Right.
much of a choice necessarily in liberal Kansas at the frozen food section
Right.
because there's going to be an adverse reaction. And same, I thought it was interesting in a weird way to have one of those hot times in your life when culture is huge. is high school. And
Oh
so,
God, yes.
right. And so
I mean,
then
I
people are
teach high
telling you who
school,
you
so I get
are.
to see it all day long.
People are always telling you who you are, what clique you're a part of. And then, you try on the turtleneck, you try this on, you try that on, and you're trying to find yourself. But this high school in some ways isn't as kind to this outsider.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
Mostly
it
because
is.
it's a John Hughesy kind of field, if you're talking about Chicago here, where
Yeah, no. And
she's
it's
from the wrong
always
side of
hard
the
to be the new kid,
yeah.
but she's also she already marches to her own drum.
Yeah, I think her parents gave her the central. I mean, that's part of the thing
Right.
too. Parents did some very good parenting and gave her
Right.
the strength that she was together enough to be able to move that forward and not succumb,
I,
succumb to
I
it.
mean, I love that she's a Billie Holiday fan, but you don't find a lot of high school kids
Yeah,
these days who are Billie Holiday fans. I know a couple,
but
so
her
they're
name is
there.
Billy, so her parents
Yeah,
gave her that one purely.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
My middle name is Mailer, and actually, I probably shouldn't say it, but of course, in these days, but I'm a huge Normie Mailer fan.
There you
I'm,
go. That's
pass or
allowed.
fail.
That's allowed. I mean, I guess I,
Executioner song is fantastic.
yeah,
Execute.
I guess I'm always the last one to know what's allowed and what's not because I don't really give a damn.
Well, it all should be exactly. It all should be both allowed and not allowed. I mean, everybody should have their own
Well, I mean, I think
lexicon.
even with, and I have to deal with this in comics because I mean, I won't name the name because I still can't say it on the air. But my favorite comics writer for years, who I have read every word he's ever written, turned out to be not such a nice guy, and
Yeah.
and it's a hard thing to struggle with,
Yeah.
um, particularly in a collaborative medium because it's not his artist's fault that he's not a nice guy.
Right.
It's not
Right.
his letterer's fault. It's not his editor's fault. All these other people who worked really hard on all of these books.
Yeah. But and I get
Um,
it as a political person too. I understand boycotting. I understand not
right.
wanting to give people different
But
roles and stuff. But I
but
also
but
understand you could be a serial killer and make, a good
right. I
egg.
mean,
Or you
it's
could be a great guy and not recycle. Like,
I mean we were talking the Beatles briefly off the air. The more I learn about it, the more convinced I am that John before Yoko and really even John before his lost weekend is not somebody I would have ever wanted to spend time with.
Oh, no, during that long documentary, he's kind of annoying. His
Yeah.
sense of humor is annoying, the way he's
He's
coming.
he's at best annoying and he's at worst an asshole.
Yeah.
he
Well,
he wasn't very nice to people.
he actually knows they have clearly their own collaborative rhythm, and
Right.
at
Right.
best,
Oh
he
no,
ends up
he's a
collaborating, and he
genius.
crushes it. He starts
No,
crushing it. You're
he's
like,
a
oh,
genius.
oh, yeah.
I get why McCartney stuck with him for so long.
Yeah. I've been in a bunch of different kind of mediums where a lot of collaboration is taking place. Novel writing is the only one where there's not much. You just
Right.
have an editor. But otherwise, you have to collaborate, and it's sometimes you're willing to do things for people who do have extreme talent. But say for film, and we're talking music, you still got to be in the bus for so long. You got to be on the
Right.
plane for so long that, like,
Right.
certainly there's someone who
Well,
can play this bass line as well as like
yeah.
it's
Well, it comes up. It comes up on this podcast regularly because comics is a medium where not a lot of people get rich.
right.
So it's like, I mean, and I'm not saying we don't have our bad actors, but it's really hard to continue getting work when you're a jerk
Yeah,
because
that's right.
there's not enough talent to make it worth it.
And it's a long grind. Like my fairy godfather took John and I, from the beginning to the end. We started it in COVID. I probably, until it's out, it's like 2.5 years. It's a
Right. That
run.
sounds about right.
Same
Um,
with Windows on the World that we did. Like probably 2.5, 3 years from here we go to here we are. That's a long
so
time.
you work in a lot of different mediums. Um, I I'm unabashed about the fact that I think comics are hands down the most versatile and for my money the best medium. I don't think there's any story that cannot be told in a comic book. That being said, um, this story in particular, given that you work in so many, I could see it being a good movie. I could see it being a good novel. I could see it being a good play. What made you choose? I think I believe that it's probably a better comic than it could have been any of those things. But I don't know what your thought process was. What made you
Um,
decide that this was a comic, or did it start somewhere else and
it
fall
started
there?
somewhere else. It started, this one started simultaneous with wanting to still maybe do some things in film for an
Okay,
audience, for, like you said, for money, for other reasons. Like you have certain ideas that fit into particular boxes,
right,
or particular mediums, and some can be more elastic. It's not Othello, but there is something to it that's universal about loss of parents and trying
right.
to be a parent. So I mean, those are pretty timeless sort of themes, if you will. Trying to figure out yourself, trying to figure out your loved ones. So I felt this one would work really well as a graphic novel. And then Hollywood, which does not buy anything ever, it seems like, on original ideas, then we would at least have it in some medium. And then for
Right.
them too, this was my
Could
thinking on
then
the
look at
first
it.
one, you have essentially like a storyboard as well to show
Right.
them. But I kind of given up on Hollywood pretty much entirely. And so
Hollywood is a
it's its
weird,
own
weird
terrible
place
deal.
right now.
Yeah.
A lot of feast or famine.
And I think it has been since, Fitzgerald and Faulkner, and
Yeah.
everybody went down there, and like, it killed some of my favorite writers, Jim Thompson, and like,
Right.
so like those guys weren't exactly, suckers on the vine exactly. And they got, it's a tough place, especially if you want to tell human stories. And I'm not, uh, some of the ideas that I have, maybe they involve, other pyrotechnics and expensive sets or something,
Right.
but not necessarily. So there's smaller stories, and so the language between novel writing and film is a perfect match for graphic novels,
Well,
uh,
and I
and
was
so
flipping
that's
through, and
partially why.
I just opened a page to share on the screen that I think is, and our readers or our listeners can't see this, so I'll be
Okay,
kind of describing, and it's just to be able to talk about it more. One of the things that made me go that this is perfect for a comic book is I don't see how you do a scene like this where the poster matters and the cooking matters and everybody's faces matter, and the dialogue matters, but it needs more space than it's going to take to say.
right.
um, it's one of those things that a comic can do so well, where by spacing your panels, and I love, uh, and you'll have to tell me how much of it was you and how much of it was who's your artist? I
John
Ron
Sack.
Ron Stack. How do you write your scripts for him? Do you tell him how many panels? Do you write
Uh,
more in yeah? How do you
so
write a
the
script for him?
the past ones were written as scripts, and then we attack them, almost like a mini studio where we cast the character.
Okay,
So he would figure out the looks, and we would say no, more like Tom Hanks, or no, he needs to be more buff, or she needs to be, more sympathetic, or this person is, whatever, Hispanic, or
right.
we would pick it all ahead of time. And then, very much like a mini studio too, we'd figure out wardrobe, we'd agree
Okay,
on location scouting and stuff like that, as we went along. Mostly the main characters, you kind of have to get out of the gate. And then John would kind of work his magic. Again, a screenplay is a very good springboard for visuals, right? It's not a shooting
right.
script, but it's a pretty good springboard. And then he would work his magic, and then every 6 or 8 pages we would go through again. And then myself, being a kind of a novice of the graphic novel world, we have a very good man in the street approach to what seems to be working and what not.
Okay,
And then I think back to the detail that I'm really, really kind of obsessed about in my own particular writing and stuff, that I think has a psychological tell. And having done some set tech too for film, I think the details, we would go over the details, or I would try to add details to things that I felt should be more in focus, or that would might be missing or changing. The movie posters were kind of left for me to pick what movie posters should be up where, you
okay.
know? Um, then, there were a few times, right after we were done, I had it's interesting because when I write fiction, or maybe it's not interesting, but it's interesting to me. When I write
It's
fiction, I
interesting.
start,
All of this is interesting to me. Trust me.
right. So my process for writing fiction is I start at the first page and I move forward. I try to get a page a day. So page one, next day, page one, and then two. The next day, page one, two, three. The next day, page one, two, three, and then four. It all has to be right. So each day takes you longer. And if a chapter gets up to be like 16, 18 pages, you have a lot of work to do before you're writing new material. Um,
Right.
but one thing, and then I close the chapters once they're done, unless something happens, unless you say, oh my God, Stephen has to do this. He needs this scene to make this all work. And then you go back. It's
Okay.
easier to do that writing a novel than when you've made those decisions. Like in film, you have to open up the whole thing and do reshoots, and you may or may not be able to do it. There's
Right.
things you can and can't do with graphic novels too, unless you're up for rewriting the whole thing. And John writes these out as you see them. Each
Right.
each page comes at us as a full panel. So some stuff you can change and some you can't. And now after working with him for 5.5 years, I'm pretty adept at what we can and can't change, or what's a lot of work and what
Right.
may be adding a small detail that I think he can do that can help things. Do you know what I
Right.
mean?
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely. I've become particularly, I mean, I, I'm more of a writer personally. I can't make pictures in my head. It's one of the reasons I love comics is that, when I read a novel, I love it, but I have no idea what anybody looks like. Doesn't matter how much you describe it or anything. I've got the words for it, but they're just words, you know.
Well,
Um,
again, like, so I think we had I mean, I would have to pull out the screenplay, but like we also, you get a chance to see like what needs time and what doesn't, what needs establishing shots. So the frames that you just showed prior, he was like, we need something bigger now to establish like the town and her
right.
place in it, passing by, the church and the National Beef Company. I wanted that up there.
Yeah.
He had something else because
Yeah.
I think that employs like 40% of the town, maybe
Right.
more. You
Right.
know, and then the fact that the team's the Redskins and stuff too. You want
The
these other
liberal
things that she's
Redskins.
not. Again, it's an outside force on
Yeah.
her that she's not commenting on, and maybe she's not going to do anything about, or something about, or she noticed or doesn't notice, but it's part of her new geographic landscape. And to use a term I think my friend uses a lot is psychogeography. Like
Yeah.
this, if you're walking beneath like the psychogeography of like of beef slaughterhouses and processing plants, that's gonna have an effect in some way.
Well, and that was exactly where I was well, I mean that was part of where I was going. Again, the pacing and the decisions like this I mean, so the comics literacy in this book is outstanding.
John's really
So
smart.
that's one of the reasons I was asking how you wrote, because it gives me a feel for I mean, because some people write really detailed scripts and really detailed comic strips where to
Right.
be like 5 panels. This panel should have this. This panel should have that. This panel, and most good writers leave some room for their artists to do stuff, but other people are really loose where they write most of the dialogue and the story and the feel and give the artist much more control over the visual look.
One
And it
one
sounds
thing that so we start the next one we were working on. We've just started. We have a little pause here because of the summer and stuff. We were
okay.
doing much more as a graphic novel. I wasn't writing it as a screenplay, so it was in the manner that you said.
Okay.
The opening scene, this is what it should be like. There's a lot of more detail in it. Here are the next sort of, panels that should be, blah, blah, blah. But this
This
one,
page.
was still, written in the form of, again, a screenplay kind of coming to life. Yeah,
You,
it's
you,
all
you
it's
want
all
you,
interesting in terms of that. Yeah, then like stuff like this, these are all, things that I thought
you
should
know
be in.
what I love most about this page here? I'm looking at anybody who's picked up their copy before they're reading. I'm looking at page 49 while she's unpacking her records, and we have Lucinda Williams' Happy Woman, Billie Holiday's Greatest Hits, Andy Warhol's cover of Velvet Underground and Nico, just a little bit of Sex Pistols underneath the Clash London Calling, Patti Smith, Los Lobos, How Will the Wolf Survive, and Aretha Now. What I love is not only do I own all of those albums, I have all except the Patti Smith on vinyl. So,
Oh, wow. Do you know these?
so when I looked at this page, I'm like, oh, I know those.
Someone spilled out your record collection.
Yeah, yeah. And I think there
Well, I
was a
think it's
Nina
also
Simone
interesting.
poster somewhere
I'm sorry.
I said I think there was a Nina Simone poster somewhere that just like made me really happy. Um, or at
Well,
least
one of the things I think was interesting is in lapse of, I mean, then, what's semi-autobiographical and stuff too. We're big music fans in our family, and I got 4 kids. So I know that I've inflicted my musical taste on them. And if something were to happen to me, they would have a pretty big stack of records and stuff and
right.
books, of course.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that would be part of what they would pour through, would already be in them, and what maybe they would go back to
Ah, I,
and,
I,
and
I
try to
miss
get
the
them through the
Rangers
time,
jersey.
you know? And
Miss the
you'll see,
baseball
like, I think a
reference.
couple of the songs, I'll be seeing you in all the old familiar
Oh,
places, especially because they named her Billy, comes
that
up
is
quite a bit.
hands down my favorite Billie Holiday song, and
So
Billie
good.
Holidays is my hands down favorite version of that song.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Um,
She's
Tony
incredible.
Bennett does a really nice one, but Billie's is
Yeah.
out of this world.
I met
Um,
I met Tony Bennett once really quickly, a
oh,
couple times
now I'm
actually.
jealous.
Yeah, yeah.
I've seen Tony Bennett. He used to play Ravinia every year, so I've seen Tony Bennett live 7 or 8 times.
I did a bunch of work for SF Jazz, and I
Okay,
met him in that capacity. What you're
very
doing for
cool.
the music's wonderful. I gotta tell you, it's
See,
American.
see, what I love about Tony Bennett is he never sang a song he didn't mean.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, like a great actor, you think they're the person
Right.
like doing it. Yeah.
He never ever sang. I mean, the number of songs that he shouldn't. I mean, have you ever heard his album "Here's to the Ladies"?
I'm not sure what's on that one, but I mean,
It's all
Richards
songs that are
is-
normally sung by women. It's
oh, there
got
you go.
like "People Who Need People." It's got "Over the Rainbow." It's got, and he nails every freaking one of them.
Now he's
On Holiday, he does a bunch of songs that you associate with Billie Holiday, and he nails every freaking one of them. Um,
every
just
time I do
consummate
when I
professional.
screw up my Tony Bennett thing, it was very funny. When I try to imitate Tony Bennett, sometimes I fall into Christopher Walken, and
I can
but
see
I
that.
found out, get it. I was like, you know what? I bet they're from the same place, and
I
guess what?
bet you.
They're from the same part of Queens.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
it's probably just a talking thing.
yeah, yeah. That makes sense to me.
Little
But yeah,
man.
Tony was something special.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah,
And so, yeah, so, music is one of the things get passed down and one of the touchstones for who we are. And of course, there's a lot of struggle in jazz and Billie Holiday and the music that she's receiving there from her parents, in lots of ways. It's everything from Aretha to punk rock, and then she gets told, it's and a time to dance, right? There's
right.
they have this mutual point where they dance to some Texas music, my Rhett Miller and the old 97s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Bob Wills.
I mean, I love so much about this book. But another thing that stood out to me, that's been standing out to me in a lot of my favorite stuff lately, is that I haven't come up with a better term, and I don't know if I want to even. It's messy. It treats life as something that's not static. It's fluid.
Yeah.
She turns down the study date because she figures out that the boy is the one that had egged the theater and or related to the girl or the women at the, she figured out, oh, but that didn't make her stop liking it.
Right.
And therefore you still have that back and forth. Um,
That's just the
she's
worldview. You'll see that in whatever work, I do. And I bet John as well. Like, like there's, we're not I'm not a Star Wars person exactly. I'm not a black and white person. Like I think life is pretty messy and pretty
Don't get me wrong, I
compartmentalized.
love Star Wars, but I
Yeah.
get what you're saying.
No, you know what I mean? Like, it's a general good versus evil. I think
Right.
most people have a lot of good in them, but they're afraid or there's
Well,
fear
and
or, you
you
know.
even made her aunt and uncle as much as they're made out to be the closed-minded Texas whatnot. They have their moments
Well, I think they love
where
her.
they're just
I
human,
think they love
and
her
it
and
is
are trying
very
to
clear that
do
they love her. Right.
what they think is best.
Right.
I don't think what they're doing is best, but
Right.
I think they generally are like,
Yeah,
no,
they
no, no.
genuinely do.
Yeah, they definitely
Um,
do. And then that's a conflict we see playing out in so many ways, and in our country and in everywhere, and in
yeah.
families, just in families, right? It gets sloppy pretty fast.
I mean, I think lately in this country it's been playing out on steroids,
Yeah,
but
oh,
but
for
it is
sure.
just a thing in general. I mean, one of the I literally learned it. It was part of like a corporate training, and I don't think that like the corporation actually took it as to heart as I wound up taking it. But one of the things I learned in a training once was assume the best intentions.
Well, attention
Make
is something that's completely out the door these days, I think. As
right,
somebody who loves comedy and stuff too, like, people who say, "Oh, it was a joke" when they didn't mean it, that's a different thing entirely.
right,
But people's intentions often is to bring something to light, or to for humor or for a hard truth via
right,
Lenny Bruce, Richard Pryor, what's your name, Hannah Gatsby, or
right,
whoever you want, whoever your real comedians, that are really really working that particular vein, right? And so I see it there too, because if a joke fails, the intention isn't necessarily to hurt or diminish. And so you take it, say, out of the realm of comedy and into the realm of just trying to interact at the supermarket. You know, if somebody doesn't know your pronoun or something, it might not be intentional. If someone doesn't know your
right.
language, it might not be
But
intentional.
I mean, I'll even go further. I mean, as somebody who deals with a lot of high school kids and therefore hears a lot about like their parental drama and whatnot, I'll find myself saying, "Look, yeah, it sucks, but think for a second from their perspective. Do you think they're doing it because they don't like you,
Right. Well, back to the aunt and uncle,
or do
like,
or
and
do
then
they think they're doing it because they're terrified of what could happen to you if they don't
they don't come
do
through.
in every
They
way
don't, if they
right?
don't do it. Yeah, yeah. And again, it becomes a fear-based thing. And I think there's nothing more fearful than, for in my life anyway, than having a child. And I have
Oh
four.
God, I
And
I
growing up.
have I have two kids. I have two grandkids.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh wow, you got grandkids.
I do.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
I
That
would have
looks like
been
the best
way
job.
more amazing if I was a little bit older, and so was he. But he's doing a great job.
Uh-huh.
He's my son has like so far outstriped me as a father already that I'm just blown away.
Yeah, my kids are kicking my ass across the board
Right.
in so many
Right.
ways. Uh,
Um,
But I think it's interesting too, though, that's the job at hand for somebody who didn't think that they were going to have a job. And part
right.
of the revelation for Adam is to realize now he has this thing that he needs to
Oh
kind of
yeah. No,
love more.
I related a lot with I mean, he's older, but I had my kids young, so there's an element, there's a same element of this wasn't what I expected to be doing, and that doesn't matter.
Yeah. And I also think that
It's
the
kids right here. Got
most
to
people
do it.
don't have I wasn't raised in a nuclear family at
Yeah.
all. And
Yeah.
so I think family is how make it, whether it's via
It is.
types or other things. And so, I've been lucky enough to have other older people and younger people in my life, and different brothers and people who are either my cousins as brothers, or, friends who were sisters, like all of it, like it's really important. I'm not going to say that it takes a village, but it takes a select few of chosen family as well. And so
I mean,
even coming in as
I'll
kind of
say
a
it's
hero on the
a
side.
village is a good thing.
Yeah.
But
Although
why
I think
not
there's
take
some
a
comedian that said,
village?
they lost their kid, and they're like, it takes a village, right? And he's like, yeah, there's some sketchy parts of this village. Got to make sure not in that sketchy parts.
Um,
My father ran a home for juvenile delinquents where I was raised, and so I'm very, very well aware that not everybody in the shadows is so nice necessarily.
no, not
But at the
always. It's
same
nice when
time,
they are,
well, yeah, but you
but you
can't
can't.
be
But not
afraid.
everybody not in the shadows is so nice either.
No, totally. And also, I think it's interesting that the parents, for a particular reason, I think that as Stephen, his lover, points out, they entrusted him, not the aunts and uncles,
Right,
for a reason. Like
right.
you have to trust your heart. Adam has to trust his heart and his perseverance. One of the
And
interesting things here too, which is generational again, which I thought what I find interesting in the book too, is she doesn't have any problem really with him being gay,
right.
and but because she doesn't, she's really not as thoughtful as she needs to be because essentially
Sometimes.
he has to live his life, and it's not really up to her to tell her that it's easy or that this culture is gonna look past that. He's like, look, I've been living in liberal for a long time. Like, you don't quite know this. That's why when she shows that movie, the Warhol film and stuff too, it like, I think it's interesting that she is part of that catalyst.
So I'm gonna take us to an ancillary character that I loved,
Sure.
and I just want you to tell me more about him. Simon.
Yeah, I like Simon. Simon was always. I think Simon was always, I was always a geek kid too. Back to say John Hughes or something, it was always the
Yeah.
Anthony Michael Hall kind of character. And I and a lot of my friends, we didn't fit in at school at all, or I had several cliques, but no clique. I played
Okay.
sports, I wrote, so the jocks weren't into that. I was into drama and stuff and film, and they weren't into that. And then the other people, weren't, into particulars of those kind of modes too, right? So you'd have these people that would be deeply in, and then sometimes you have nothing to share it with. Like it feels very, very lonely, but you're all in. And I just love the fact that Simon's sort of all in until
Yeah.
like he finds it, but he's all in. And I think his sister says something like, man, I got him like I got him a few records at the at the thrift store. Now he can't turn them off. It's all 80s
I
all the
used to take him to the thrift store with me, gave him a couple of playlists. Now I can't turn him off.
time. And I'm sure my siblings felt. I'm the youngest of three. I bet
Okay.
my siblings felt like that about me, and and again, I've been really lucky on this one. I have four children and two daughters who help me with one version of trying to make a believable teenage situation and teenager too. In
That's
fact,
good.
one of the things that I did was ask, and it gets creepy, right? I was like, hey, your friend, you got any pictures of your friend in the clothes she's wearing? My daughter Lucinda's friend Katie was one of the many models in a way of like, what's she wearing?
Gotcha.
It's like, you're not looking as closely, and then it has to work. It can't, a novel and even graphic novels, you're fishing for later on, especially with slang. You got to be very careful
Right.
because if you overuse slang or you lean on it too much, I mean, it's not going to mean what it did 6 months
It's
ago.
gotta at least
Stand for a moment, and you
well
have to, when you say
I
it, it has to sound like the thing.
right because I sometimes like slang, particularly when it's from eras that aren't my own. But if
Right.
it's not used in a way where you can pick up its meaning from context, you
Right.
have a problem.
Yeah. And so that was something that I
Unless you give a glossary, like the Hernandez brothers, particularly because most of the time when they're using slang, they're using Spanish slang. They'll
right.
generally give you a quick asterisk at the bottom to say this means,
Yeah. It's like watching
you
a Ken
know.
Loach film. You got to put on the subtitles. You're like, even though it's in English, like
Right.
I can't hear. I don't know what they're saying. The
Right.
Scots are wicked that way. Actually, it was interesting. The French version of this came out first because we had
Because this is such a French comic book, it's not even funny.
it kind of is actually. I hope it has been
I mean,
getting
no, I mean they first of all they never fell in love with superheroes, but secondly, just the panel structure. They've always been much more willing to have many, many more panels on a page. Much more willing. I mean, I'm looking at a page here where it's headshot of her, headshot of him, headshot of her, headshot of him, her looking at the watch, headshot. That's the type of pacing that just
Yeah,
is way more likely to be in a bande dessinée than, and I always mispronounce that because I don't know French,
I'm not
but
gonna try it. But yeah. They were really big on Windows on the World. So the guy at Comics Initiative, a wonderful guy, said, "Hey, you know what else do you have?" And at that point, we had, the Fairy Godfather that we were, went back to Fantagraphics with. Um, but then Fantagraphics publishes out of China, and there was a panel that had a map in it in the school in one of the high school scenes, and China stopped the
yeah,
presses.
I think that because I've only gotten to see the PDF so far. I think I found the page. And I think it's not actually the map. I think you actually have the flag of Taiwan
Oh, was that the
on the
egregious
wall.
moment?
Yeah.
This is the page as it is now. You
Yep.
see there?
Oh,
And then
maybe that is the version that
in
I have.
Mon Père le Bon Fils, which is I can barely pronounce if I'm pronouncing it correctly. It this is it. I think there was just more of an outline for what China, maybe Taiwan existed. I can't see the flag count.
Okay, see, I thought it was, so that must be a different flag.
But anyway,
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's
very
not the
strange
first time I've
for
heard
sure.
that story.
Yeah,
It
I'm
is not
shocked.
at all the first time that I've heard that story for a book being delayed because of something incredibly minor that didn't get past Chinese censors, and therefore they wouldn't allow it to be printed in the country.
Was wild. It was
You
wild.
know,
Uh,
oh,
we'll see what happens in Florida if you can't say gay. Then the
I mean,
governor's not going to like it.
it does feel very very on its way to if they notice it. And see, they're less likely to notice it because it doesn't they're not actually that smart in going after books.
Right.
They
It's
really
good.
only go after the books that have like the word queer in the title or a black person on the cover.
Right. No history and no, yeah.
I remember having this conversation as everything blew up, and I actually got the whole list that was being distributed by the Moms Against Liberty, that sort of thing. Ta-Nehisi Coates, Ibram Kendi, all over it. Is Larry McMurtry there with Brokeback Mountain? No.
That's funny.
Are there any Michael Chabon books on there? No. They don't want any white guys that might show up on TV and be listened to by their base.
Wasn't Brokeback Ian Prue? Isn't that an Ian Prue story?
It was they did it together at least for the movie.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's
Yeah.
probably right. Yeah. I
Yeah.
like Ian Prue. I remember when the shipping news came out, I lived in Albuquerque for a year.
Okay.
And I went and saw her after she had won like the Pulitzer for that and maybe the National Book Award, or she was up for it. And there were eight people, eight people there. And four of them were like, it was a nooner kind of thing. Four of them were people that just showed up for anything. Uh, and I was like, wow, so that left me, my friend, two other people who knew that, like, oh my God, this is Annie Prue. And
In like uh,
when no
all
one shows up
arts
for me, I'm like, that's all
in like
right.
all
Hey,
arts and particularly books and comics, it can be so weird because like I wasn't there for this, but I'm friends with the owners of Comics and Conversation in Chicago.
Okay.
They've had Raina Telgemeier twice. The first time they had Raina Telgemeier, nobody showed up.
Hmm.
The second time they had a smattering of people. And the next time she was in Chicago, she sold out the United Center.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I mean, Raina Telgemeier's last graphic novel had a 1.25 million initial print run.
Oh my God. That's totally that's nuts. That's nuts.
Well, she writes fantastic YA graphic novels.
Yeah. 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 So there you go.
And they are fantastic. Anybody who, and I'll say this to you, even if you haven't read Smile or Guts or Drama from Raina Telgemeier, I don't care that they're technically YA, you're going to love them.
Okay.
They're fantastic.
I think I read Smile because my
Yeah,
daughter. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. They're fantastic. I mean, actually, I love using her as an example because my wife's an art teacher and she likes to do a like icebreaker at the beginning of class.
Uh-huh.
And last year she was telling me how like on Monday she asked the kids what their favorite comic was, and like everybody was like, I don't really like comics. And on Tuesday, she asked everybody what their favorite book was, and 2/3 of the class listed one or another Raina Telgemeier book.
Oh wow.
And she's like, "That's comics." And they're like,
Yeah.
"What? I thought it was just a book."
Right.
And on one side, it's like, "Oh, this is why people don't get how great of a medium comics are," and on the other side, it's like, "Well, at least they're not like thinking it's below them."
Right. Well, another thing to get back to film, it's just cheaper. Like, you can have a set, like you can have them, go to the Eiffel Tower. Like they're
Right,
not doing that in film. Like if it starts in a small town, that's it. You're there,
right.
and in some ways I was thinking about this, okay, we can double, the high school. Where are the similar locations? Like keep it cheap, keep it cheerful. You don't have to, film this in Kansas. Like, but one of the other things that's really nice for me is I'm not interested as much, nor am I very good at pages of geographic or cityscape descriptions. I'm usually a paragraph or two and out, and only interested in how it relates geographically or mirrors or is dissimilar to the situation at hand or the characters. How again it mirrors or
Right.
is difficult. So I don't go on and on. So in a street corner, again, you can say, okay, it's a street corner. John can come up with all that shit.
Right.
He can come up with the telephone poles and the thing, what's it look like, and that interests him very much, and he's great at that
Well,
detail.
and it's gonna ground it that much more.
Oh yeah, but
I
I'm
mean,
not very
that's
good at it, so it's
well, but I mean, I wasn't even talking about you versus him. I was talking about it's one of the things that makes comics so in film. Yes, you've got all the pictures, but the director is 100% deciding your pace for how you because let's face it, who what I mean, there are some people,
editor, the editors, the
but
editor, and
but
at the end of the day, it's the editor, the producer,
right.
more than even the directors in the
Sure,
middle. Fine.
sure. I'll go with that. But where I was going is who gets so into the visuals of a film that they stop and pause and rewind and stop and pause and rewind because they're looking at a poster on the wall.
Yeah.
Whereas when I get to this overhead picture of her room as they're unpacking,
Right.
I'm going to stop and I'm going to look at the turntable and the fact that the speakers are playing, and I'm going to look at the albums and the slightly messy bed, and she's got her phone on one side and her book on the other, and these things are going to and that like to my autistic brain that goes, "Oh, she really rolls around in bed." Because if she's got her phone on one side and her book on the other,
That's right.
of what looks like a full size bed. This is not somebody who like
And the details are
ha-
really good. The details are really good.
right. So you
I
get
would
to
counter that though. Ready for me to counter? Ready
oh,
for the
absolutely.
rebuttal? The counter is that most people who fetishize over their films are not you can't stop them. The point is that you're in the dark in a movie theater on a big
Right.
screen, and then that it arrests you that way. These days, unfortunately, people, producers mostly, are thinking in terms of small screens, even handheld or your computer. And that's
Right.
why, even if we were watching stuff that both of us may agree was great, David Lean, Kurosawa, like whatever, Coppola, or whatever you think is, whatever, French cinema, Antonioni, you would see this stuff. But if it's on your phone, you might not be moved by it at all. It's
Right.
definitely not coming, the camels and like, crossing the desert or something, is not going to be.
Though to be honest, that's another place where I'm weird because sometimes on my phone I'm more able to shut out everything else.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, so again, though, but
And like
setting it
really
out.
absorb and fall into the film than I am in a lot of other put on a good set of headphones, have the phone right here, nobody else in the room.
Well, yeah, I think you're right. Graphic novels and novels make you fall away more, but there's something to being in a movie theater with other people that's also a known
Oh
quantity.
yeah, no.
None of the directors are hoping for one person in there. They're
Right.
hoping, and I've done
Oh,
this and seen this where comedy you laugh more, and in tragedy you cry more because you're feeling everybody else in the audience as well.
just like I think every book and every graphic novel is even better when you book club it and therefore have somebody else I mean, because in books and graphic novels, even more than movies, but movies too, the viewer, the reader, they're the final collaborator. In comics, this is especially true because the reader decides so much on the pacing. The reader fills in so much between panels. There is
Right.
so much that is said and so much that is shown and so much that isn't. But when you put the words and the pictures together, comes together, but can come together in different ways for different people. What movies have, particularly movies when we go to them in the theater, is kind of that natural book club experience where everybody's talking about it on the way out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you want, as a writer, you want to share your worldview and your moments and your emotions and your thoughts with people. And so it's great when that happens. And then as a reader, you want to also know that you're maybe not alone and you try to
Right.
share these moments in this story with other people. That's why people, you know, hand and pass around novels,
Oh, yeah.
or tell people to go do this or that. And so it's and have favorite passages, have favorite chapters, have favorite lines from anything, and to be able to go back to those places is all about our humanness, which is all one and the same. It's why we write, it's why we experience. We're saying, don't you see this, don't you see that, isn't this true too? And sometimes if we did our job, you're able to tell a story where you might not have thought about these people and what's going on in this particular world, and giving you a view from the stands of these people's lives as we follow them, and giving you hopefully a different perspective, or recorroborating a perspective that you might share for other reasons, that the 1 + 1 + 1 = 3. You're
Right.
like, you know what? Yeah, this is what makes sense to me in life and in high school and in trying to find love, and trying to be from a small town and trying to share cinema, trying to share love with your lover, and this is what it's like to be lonely and to have loss.
So, did you grow up?
I have
You
not
said,
grown up yet.
well, okay, but you said you're ninth generation Californian.
Yep.
Um,
Mexican side. We lost
Cal
Spanish side.
Okay,
I, I percent.
California definitely has small towns as well as big cities, no matter
Okay.
what most of us in the middle of the country think. So, do you have that small town experience? Did you grow
Yeah.
up more in a city area or
I was born in San Francisco, and then folks were divorced right away. And so I was raised right across the bridge in San Rafael. It's my most working
okay,
class part of Marin. And then my dad would take us into the city a lot because he didn't really want to hang out in Marin anymore. And he moved up to a small town called Boonville, which is about
okay,
110 miles away up in Mendocino County.
which
And then he
you may
opened up
have
a
written about at some point, I think.
I did.
Do
And
you have
actually, new edition.
a
Look at that. With
a
a
novel?
Sandow Burke, with a Sandow Burke illustration for the cover now. But yeah, Boonville. And so his group home was in Redwood Valley, which is
Okay,
maybe 12 miles outside of Ukiah, which is kind of a town probably the size of Liberal, anyway. And so I lived in these towns. Boonville had 715 people, Redwood Valley maybe less. And the highway doesn't even go through town in Redwood Valley. And in
okay,
Boonville, it's a different highway. And so 715 people in a town, 99 kids in the high school, 20 people in your graduating class.
okay.
Uh, and so that's pretty small. And I'm old enough. I'm 55. So, maybe you're pulling three stations if you have a TV and the coat hanger works. You're going to, there's no movie theater in Boonville. There's not even, there's often not a gas station, you know, and so you're out there. Um, as the guys at my dad's group home used to say once in a while, in Redwood Valley, nobody can hear you scream. They take the old alien tagline. And so, yeah. And then when you're in Ukiah, you're in Ukiah. And that's, the book is dedicated to my brother's best friend from Ukiah, who was in fact gay and then managed the Castro Theater in San Francisco.
That's the
In
one that I
some
was trying to
ways, for
remember.
shorthand, sorry, liberal, but I imagine that Ukiah, in my dull imagination, in 1979 is probably like liberal Kansas now. Like it just, they've met somewhere in that kind of, semi-progressive-ish kind of place. But it was a logging town, capital L logging town. And then you've got some grapes, you got Gravenstein apples, you got pears, you got sheep. And then you get further out on the coast and you have uh, fishing and canneries, but that's all gone. And so then
Right.
it became part of a criminal class $1 billion dope industry. It's part of the Emerald Triangle, Mendocino County, highest THC content in the nation in Boonville. So that changed things. Otherwise, we'd be Bakersfield.
Okay.
We'd be outside. Well, I would be 6 miles outside of Bakersfield, which is
Right.
not where I want to be. Uh,
Right. No, I only ask because I know that I mean you brought up the Castro in one of your emails to me as well. Um, so I knew that you had the city experience, but you do capture that small town feel really well. So I was trying to figure out how much of it was from lived experience, how much of it was from research.
Well, the lived
Um,
experience, yeah. I mean, again, back to Simon and stuff,
right,
like that's who you are. You're just
right.
putting it on and trying to figure it out amongst a bunch of people. I remember one of my first days of class in Ukiah High School when I was a freshman. I had half the class outside who wanted to kick my ass because I said, and this was a geography class, that we didn't win the Vietnam War
Ooh,
because I came from a much, my parents were radical, or my dad was and stuff. We came from radical kind of stock. I
yeah,
would
no, that wouldn't go over
have
very
back
well in a
down.
lot of places.
Back then, like, no, no,
Yeah,
no.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I don't think it was easy to be on the spectrum there, T,
Oh no.
in any particular way. And I one of my friends was gay, and I didn't know until later, until I was like, oh, of course.
Right.
And you see your
Well, and
whole language and lexicon and stuff is just full of homophobia and stuff.
Well,
And
and actually, that's something that I think about a lot as a teacher at a relatively liberal high school, and on the autism spectrum myself, and therefore like acutely aware of the various different ways that my brain works very differently. Um, I realize that like part of you know the 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 right wing scared white man is oh, we didn't have this when we were kids, blah blah blah. And no, you didn't, because you didn't have words for it.
yeah, that's right.
You had it, but instead of being able to in some way actually define themselves, they just felt different,
Yep.
and they certainly weren't celebrated for it. For that matter, I was in a panel at C2E2. um, it was Jenny Wood. Let me make certain I got her name right. She's coming up on the show soon. Um, she talked about, for a long time, she she just thought of herself as a lesbian because that's what fit best. And
Yeah.
then
Well,
she
I can
heard
see that.
about non-binary, and she went, "No, that's a better
Dude, I
fit."
want that. Well, you see a lot of people again coming into their own. They're coming into
Right. So
rally. They
it,
don't know
it
what it
really
is.
it
Try it on.
wasn't, and it's, I mean, you brought up with the characters that the
The Claire character too is definitely lesbian or
right, but you brought up with the characters that it wasn't like their primary. He wasn't gay first and then a
yeah.
cinephile and then um and like the more I learn the language, I'm sitting there going, yeah, I don't think of myself as a man. I don't think of myself as a woman either. Like that's not part of my identity at all. So I'm probably non-binary. I don't care
Right.
because it's not part of my identity at all.
And again, like we can present,
You know.
we're able to present in a way that can be heteronormative, so we can
Right.
pass in a sense, and
Right.
so that does give us a lot of freedom. I mean, for sure,
Right.
that a lot of people
Um
afforded. So I mean, that's where it gets rough. Like when people are again told that they have to be in a box or they're going to be
right.
beaten up or killed or
Right. Well, and that's the other thing that
that's
as I
hard.
realize that I'm sitting there going, what if it did matter?
Yeah,
How
and
much would
also
it
like
suck
again,
if it mattered to me?
and back to sexuality, I'm a DH
Right.
Lawrence fan too. You're like, it matters. Like, I'm not saying
Right.
it, and I'm not saying that some people don't put it first. Like, that's cool too. I'm just
Right.
saying
Well, and
that
even when
people
it's not
don't or wouldn't
first,
self-define. It's still
right.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Even when it's not first, it matters. I mean, I only brought up the gender because I literally, I mean, I also work in autism and whatnot. So, I get called Mrs. E all the time just because I'm around kids that they call everybody Ms. and their last initial. That just means teacher to them.
right.
And and some of my coworkers will correct them, and I'm sitting there going, I don't give a shit.
We
I've
have a
always preferred long hair, so I've had people think I was a girl on and off just because they saw me at the wrong angle for
right.
years. And again, it's like, okay, whatever.
Well, but again, I see with my kids too that none of that stuff is like an insult anymore.
Right,
And there's, it's much better to be from a place where you can pick and choose.
right.
Not
Well, and
one
we talked
thing.
about that a little bit with why can't I remember your protagonist's name right now?
Really.
Billy. That I should remember it. I've got a Billie Holiday biography probably within reach somewhere.
I forget my characters' names too sometimes. She's an easier one to remember
Right.
for me.
There was a fantastic comic biography of Billie Holiday. If you haven't read it,
I don't think I have.
you should
I
track
just
it down. Um,
I saw the last film that what's her name did, it was pretty interesting actually. It wasn't a great film, but so what? It was super interesting. Woman, unbelievable. Audra Day.
Audra McDonald.
No, it
Or
wasn't Audra McDonald. I think Audra Day. I think that's her name.
okay.
Uh, anyway, she was fantastic in it. Anyway, yeah, tough life. Lady Sings the Blues. If you haven't read the book, I mean, the book is
Yeah.
unbelievable too. And it's
Yeah.
much darker, and it
Oh,
has a
Audra
lot to
Day.
do with her sexuality and her time in prison and with a bunch of
Her
lesbians and stuff.
drug issues. Her yeah.
Absolutely.
You name it.
Yeah. So anyway, I wish people were, kinder and more empathetic to people's choices, especially their sexual
Well,
choices.
and realize that a lot of them aren't
Just
choices.
yeah, absolutely.
They're
Yeah,
just
yeah. Just is
you
what it
know,
is. It is.
and it
It's
doesn't hurt you. I mean
that's the other part I don't get at all. You're just like, come on.
that was always one of my favorite moments. What was it? Was it Rick Perry, I think, when he was running for president, had somebody ask him the question about how two men being married would affect his marriage because he was trying to argue that it would destroy the entire institution of marriage. How and like he stumbled around over like a million different things about but like said nothing, and his career his like it was the one time where even like on the right his answer was so bad that it like killed his political
I
career, and I'm
can't
like,
think of much where people loving each other like diminishes me.
right, right.
And you're
How,
totally right. Yeah, most things are not choices for people.
right. I
But
mean,
it's not a
why
determinist
do we
world.
care? Why do
Yeah, I
we
don't understand
care?
it. I don't understand either. To me,
You
it
know?
makes the world more interesting.
Yeah. I love that the world is I mean, I used it to describe your book, and I love that the world is messy. I mean, we drifted a million other places, but I I didn't just mean in terms of not being black and white. I meant in terms of, yes, it's primarily a story about this girl and her godfather developing bonds, and but it's also a story about her godfather coming to the terms with the fact that he does love his boyfriend and does want to spend the rest of his life with him.
Right.
And it's also a story about a girl realizing that nope, she's not gay. She really likes her friend a lot, but nope, she's not gay.
Right. Yeah.
And I think she wondered until her friend kissed her and went, nope, nope, that's not me.
Got it today. Yeah, that's right. Uh,
And going, I know that you were an asshole, but I really like you and I want to date you. And I think maybe you're not an asshole anymore,
well, I mean,
except that,
that's the
oh,
other thing
wait,
too.
you
Is like
just did that. Oh, and
try
high
to
school.
humanize everything. You try to tell
Right,
stories that aren't being told, and then if you humanize things, it's harder to hate people, of course,
right.
right? But also, like, you know, fear of intimacy, or having intimacy issues is, that's
Universal.
anybody
Right,
LGBTQ,
right.
like, give me a break. Like, just because you define yourself as a certain way doesn't mean you don't have intimacy issues. Doesn't mean you want to get married right away or have someone move in. Like, you know what I mean?
But I also just love um, I think any of us who've taken a lot of writing courses have had a teacher at some point say, keep it simple, don't try to do too much. And I think almost every story that I love
Yeah, it's just the opposite.
is just the opposite.
Yeah.
I remember I was actually, do you know the author Sarah Gailey? She
I
does
don't,
both, she does sci fi and she does comics.
okay.
And I read a book of her, she's a friend of mine because of the comics. But we read a book, a student just needed to find a good book to read. And I suggested the author because I knew that the student would like her or them rather. I knew that the student would like them. Um, we started reading it, and as we got going, my student's like, "Mr. E, is this a romance or is this a mystery or is this a magic story or is this a school story? I don't." And I'm like, "But you like it?" She's like, and they're like, "I love it." And I'm like, "Yeah, I think it's just all of those things rather than being one of those things.
Yeah.
It's all of those things." She decided not to make it one thing. They're making it all of those things. And that's because life is very rarely not all of those things.
That's what I like. One of my favorite writers right now is getting a lot of play right now too. Is Percival Everett, and
Oh,
he's really
James was
good at.
fantastic.
He's
Even
fantastic.
even if I was upset when I heard about James because one of my favorite cartoonists and dear friend Marcus Kwame Anderson had been working on his book with David F. Walker, Big Jim and the White Boy for the last 2 years,
Ooh,
and they
wow.
hadn't announced yet when James got announced, and they're sitting there going. Thankfully, it turns out that they feel like they're just enough different that it's not that they'll goose each other's sails rather than the other way
Yeah. Wow, that's great. But yeah,
around.
but Percival's always keeps you human. All
Yeah.
for the most part too. There's always like comedy,
Yep.
humor in his books. Because even in the darkest fucking moments, especially in the darkest moments for a lot of people,
All you
like that's
can do
kind
is
of what
find a way to laugh.
keeps you going. But he has stuff that's completely cross genre.
Yeah.
You're wondering, if you have to, but I don't need a file cabinet. Like, it's
Right.
not the old days of records where, is this folk music or is it jazz or is it like,
Right.
who cares? Just, does it
I
swing? Does it
I
feel?
actually I ran a music department at Best Buy during the time where they were actually the place to get music.
Uh-huh.
Um, and one of the things
Kaya, back
I
to small towns, not to interrupt you, but the best music selection in Ukiah when I was a kid
yeah,
came.
Kmart, I believe it. I
Yeah.
believe it. But the department I ran actually at any given time we probably had 100,000 different titles
Oh,
in
wow.
stock.
That's a lot.
Um, but one of the things I loved is, and I know that it would upset people sometimes, but if you got to a certain level of popularity, you became rock pop. Um,
Right, right, right. No, I remember.
because you know I mean, I remember when Enya moved from new age to rock pop because it's like we actually all jumped for joy because we had so many people who go looking for her with all the rest of the music,
Right.
and we'd have to go introduce them to new age
Yeah. We
where
just
they
say,
didn't actually want any of the other music because Enya was like the outlier in terms of what they
so I was
liked.
kind of a punk rocker, and I think I mentioned off that my first concert was English Beat and the Clash,
So
and
good.
I love music in general. But there was a period too when I was listening to a lot of kind of jazz and stuff too.
Right.
So, but like Keely Smith, and then also like soul stuff, but like Etta James and stuff.
Oh, I love
So
Etta
you would find
James.
that stuff though in the easy listening thing,
Oh
and I
my
remember
God. Yeah,
being,
no,
I
Tony
remember
Bennett
being
and Frank Sinatra in easy listening made me
oh,
want to scream.
and whatever, Nat King Cole, it's like,
Oh God.
you
Yeah,
also
no,
find,
I didn't want the easy listening Easy listening just shouldn't have existed.
yeah,
I
well,
can't think of
but
a
I was
single.
like really young, and I was like, shit, man. I guess my people are like, what's your favorite kind of music? I guess it's easy listening because
No.
Billie Holiday would be there
Right.
sometimes. You know what I mean? You like
Right. Thank God I never had to put Ella
Mickey Lee
Fitzgerald
Jones
in
or
the easy
something.
lit.
You'd be like, all right,
Right.
easy listening,
Right.
whatever.
Yeah. No. Yeah, no, that was a section
Yeah,
that
bro.
like just needed to go away because the only stuff that like truly belonged in easy listening, nobody was listening to or buying anyway.
Yeah, and it was also like for a while it lasted too long, and there were a bunch of people like you go think where you would put it, and then you got to go back. I remember like
Right.
Katie Lang, the Cowboy
Oh
Junkies,
yeah.
that too. You go like, oh my God, they don't have.
Thankfully, I don't think we ever had Cowboy Junkies in easy listening. Cowboy Junkies was in. Katie Lang was tough. Katie Lang had
She's
two
super
albums in
country too.
rock, one
Oh,
album in easy listening, two albums in country.
yeah. Absolute Torch and Twang is a great album. Shadowland is one of my favorite. I mean, there's not a bad song on Shadowland.
Her her album with Tony Bennett is fantastic.
Yeah, yeah,
Hymns
yeah.
of the 49th Parallel is one of my favorite albums ever. What
And the first two
Smoke?
Cowboy Junkies albums, I totally love
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Totally love the
Cowboy
Trinity
Junkies.
Sessions, and then the
Trinity
other
Sessions.
one. I forgot what the other one's called, but yeah, it'll come to me in a second. But
Have
after,
you ever heard of a woman named Mary Gauthier?
is that the way you pronounce it? Mary Gautier, Gaucher, is that the way you
I
pronounce
think
it?
well, that's how Bob Dylan pronounced it because he
Is
was the
it
one that
Christmas
introduced
in
me.
Paradise
Right. She,
under the
yeah.
bridge? I love that fucking song.
She
She's
did
great.
I Drink. You've heard I Drink, Old Men Sit and Think, I
Yep, yep,
Drink.
yep, yep. She also
Yeah.
does drag queens and limousines.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, but
I saw her. She played here in San Francisco
oh, that's fantastic.
at the folk festival at
Okay.
Hardly Strictly Bluegrass. Yeah,
Okay.
she what a great voice. She's got a
Oh yeah. No, Bob Dylan for 3 years had what was called the Theme Time Radio Hour on, I think, Sirius Satellite Radio, where he would take an hour around a given theme, you know,
and just do
and
it.
just play just and it was mostly roots type stuff
Yeah,
Mary, but like
yeah.
on the Mother's Hour, he played Mama Said Knock You Out by LL Cool J.
There you go.
You know,
One of my favorite voices
he
is
did a baseball episode.
that makes sense.
Oh.
He's Dylan, he can do what he wants. But
Yeah.
Valerie June is one of my favorite voices in the world right now, and she comes from a bluegrass gospel background, but
Okay.
she's finding her way more into the R&B and soul and whatever, like just a larger audience, in general. But she's outrageous in terms of her voice.
We'll have to
There's
check
a few
that.
people out there, and they're not fitting into particular boxes. I
Oh
don't know who
no.
Alice Smith is. I don't know if you know Alice Smith. Her second album, I think she only made two, is one of the great albums too. It's funny,
One
yeah. Easy listening, maybe.
one of my favorite artists right now, and I think she's actually in your area. Um,
Is she from
or,
out
or,
here, or
oh,
she?
she was born in Portland. Do you know Esperanza Spalding?
Oh yeah, good. Yeah, of course.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
I've met her several times. I
Oh,
did a bunch
you've
of work
met
for
her.
Epic Jazz. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
She's fantastic.
her
Yes.
music is just outstanding.
She's outstanding. She's an
I
outstanding
believe it.
thinking, feeling person. She's
So
incredible.
you need to
Her
do
voice, aside from
you
her
need to
bass
do a
playing.
comic with her so that she can be on my podcast. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, okay.
Or is she a baseball person? We can have her on the baseball
She's
and comics
she,
episode.
no, she. I don't think. I shouldn't say that, but she doesn't. No, she does not strike me as baseball's coming up anytime soon on
Well,
her.
would Lawrence Ferlinghetti strike you as a baseball guy?
Yeah,
Okay.
all the beats like to go out to the
Yeah,
ballpark.
they do.
Cheap beer. If you can't get
Yeah,
free.
but they were. I mean, Ferlinghetti at least was like actually a baseball guy too, not just cheap beer.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. He was the only person. We just did our opening at it's our book launch at City Lights on Thursday.
Yeah, I saw the you sent me the picture.
Yeah,
The
and
video
so
didn't come through. I just got a JPEG, but
oh, okay, I'll try to send you a quick video. But
I
he
I
was the only
love.
person.
I haven't been to San Francisco. I think the last time I was out there I was there for an afternoon before catching a flight out because my dad lives up in Ashland, Oregon now. So
Okay.
sometimes it's cheaper to fly into San Francisco and drive up the coast.
Shakespeare Company, their country up
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. The Shakespeare
But
Festival every year.
my uncle has a radical newspaper called the Anderson Valley Advertiser that I started writing for when I was 15. And
Okay,
for a while, Lawrence was and City Lights was the only outlet for it.
okay.
They would carry it. And I made
But
this
yes,
poster against the Iraq War, and he put it right up in the window.
very
Right up.
cool.
He's a
Yeah.
badass.
So
100,
so
he lived to
so
be 101.
he did.
Yeah.
So yeah, the last time I was out there was 2000. God, has it been that long? Or no, my wife and I drove out there more recently, but we didn't get down to San Francisco. The last time I was in San Francisco was like 2010 or 11.
Okay.
So that's the last time I was at City Lights, but I never go to San Francisco without going to City
Yeah, you gotta
Lights.
go. I got lucky enough to, we
City
were,
Lights and Amoeba are my two
yeah,
stops when I'm
there
in
you
San
go. That's kind
Francisco.
of a good one too.
Yeah.
Get yourself some al pastor tacos and a burrito and
Yeah, that sounds
get
good to me.
style rice noodles.
Sounds good. My
Never
dad
had
has
good.
a friend who's got a condo right across from Golden Gate Park
Oh wow, okay.
because he's lived there forever.
Yeah.
So he had it paid off before it became too expensive.
Yeah, it's definitely become Manhattan.
But
Yeah.
yeah, actually, he told a great story. I knew it because I'm a Pearl Jam fan, but his version of it is even better. Pearl Jam did a free concert in Golden Gate Park during their anti-Ticketmaster tour. They were
Uh-huh.
going out of their way to play places that they could sell tickets through somebody other than Ticketmaster. And that tour just like kicked the shit out of Eddie. Um, and the Golden Gate Park was the last show, and like after 7 songs, he left the stage just throwing up his guts, blah blah blah. But they just recorded their album with Neil Young, so Neil
Oh,
Young
okay.
was gonna be coming out anyway. So Neil just came out to play with the rest of the band. So it wound up still being a 2 hour show, even though it was 7 songs with Eddie, and then Neil and Pearl Jam, and they played "Rockin' in the Free World" twice because it was the one song that the Pearl Jam fans knew. Um, but a fantastic Neil Young and Pearl Jam show. But Carl told the story as there was this free show, so tons of people there, and then at some point, even though music was still playing, there was like an exodus. But then word started going around town that Neil Young was playing free
Oh,
in Golden Gate Park,
and
and now this whole different crowd came flooding in.
that's funny. I used to see him. I hurt my back really bad, and we used to have the same person for rehab. So he would go to rehab,
Okay.
his knee and his back, before, right before me. So sometimes I would see him just nod a little bit and stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of funny. They're
All
around.
right.
All right.
Before I ask my comics questions, just because we've gone, because you clearly are all over the place in what you like. I'm gonna ask, favorite movie.
Oh, wow, that's impossible. But just for the sake of it, let's just say I'm going to say favorite B movie. Let's put it
Okay.
that
Well,
way.
I actually let me rephrase it as the way I asked the comics question. What's your favorite movie, or not favorite movie? What's a movie that you love that not enough other people have seen, and you want more people to go see it so you have more people to talk about it.
I'm gonna rip off three. Sorry, I can't do one. I'm just
Sure,
gonna.
that's fine.
Okay. Uh, Secrets and Lies, which is
Which
great.
I've heard of but haven't seen.
Yeah, The Celebration, which was one of the Dogma films that I think is just fantastic. And then a movie that is way better than anybody gives it credit. Incredible screenplay, makes me cry in spots every time. Breaking Away.
I feel like I should know that one.
Breaking Away, people call it a bicycle movie because there's a bike race in it, and it's really about being working class from a
Okay.
small town. It's
I
very
think I
classic.
have seen this movie at least once, and I remember that when DVDs were new, it was one of the ones that was like the first time we got a cheap rack of DVDs. It was like Tom Hanks, the boy with the red sneaker, Breaking Away, and I forget like there was like a dozen other movies that
Man
were
with
like
One Red Shoe.
yeah, Man with One Red Shoe, right? There was like a dozen movies that you could
Turner and
get
Hoots, Man with One Red Shoe phase, like in that whole
right that you could get for like 3.99, even when the all of the rest of DVDs were like $20 and more.
right.
Um,
I'm a big Seven Samurai fan too, though. It's
oh,
like I
I
could
love
watch
Seven
them all,
Samurai.
Yeah.
I love Seven Samurai so much that even though I don't have the dialogue memorized, I have the story memorized enough at this point that I
Uh,
don't put the subtitles on. I
oh,
just let
wow,
it
nice.
play.
Just let it go.
And it's also one of my favorite movies to play when I just need the sound to go to sleep because between the soundtrack and all the rain, it is
Oh wow, yeah.
so calming.
Yeah. That's a beautiful film.
It's like my white noise machine is Seven Samurai.
I couldn't. I think that's one of those ones. If it's on, I'm going to be in for 3 hours. I'm going to be up for the next 3 hours. Whenever it came in, I can't turn.
I have the Criterion collection on DVD. It was one of the first movies I purchased as a digital on Amazon, so I could play it anywhere, any place, anytime, anyhow.
Great film.
um,
That's
yeah,
another one I met. I've probably seen that at the Castro 5 times.
yeah, I love. Though I think my favorite Kurosawa is either Rashomon or Ra.
So if you're going there too, like actually, I would actually go to Dreams just
That
because
was
it's
what I was gonna say next. Dreams
super
is
affecting to me,
oh
and the
yeah,
vignettes are all incredible. I'm also a huge fan of High Low. I think High
which
Low.
is one that I haven't seen yet. I need to see
Oh
High
wow,
Low.
it's a totally different. I mean, it's a
Right.
different genre. It's of a kind of the.
Well,
I,
when I was a movie geek, because the older I get, the less patient. I mean, I don't watch the same amount of film anymore. I read way more comics. I don't read the same number of books, but I listen to a lot of them. Um, and I have trouble sitting and watching a movie and not picking up a comic while I'm doing it.
oh wow.
So I don't watch a lot of like, oh, I must see this every once in a while.
There's a renaissance here aside from the Roxy, which is a nonprofit that's showing single screen films and stuff. There's three single screen theaters here that have banded together: the Four Star, the Vogue, and the Balboa. And they're
Okay.
doing new movies, and then they're doing retro movies and stuff. And starting in the fall at the Four Star, I'm going to introduce a film a month.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. Uh, just because I just love it still. And just I mean, six,
Well, and
60, 60 people will all get together and we'll talk about a film a little bit after we watch it.
yeah, I think I'd be more likely to do something like that if I found the
Come
small
on out.
theater.
Where are you? You in
I'm in
Chicago?
Chicago, so a
Well,
long
once
way
a month,
away.
find some Southwest tickets.
Yeah, remember though that I'm also a teacher.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
actually the paraprofessional. My sugar mama is the art teacher.
There you go. That's the quickest way to make money is teaching art.
Uh-huh.
Aside
Uh-huh.
from being a poet, or abstract pottery.
Actually, that reminds me of one of my favorite stories to tell that I don't think I've actually told on the air. My grandmother, um, taught high school with Kim Thile's mother from Soundgarden. And Shanti was over visiting my grandmother when I was taking care of my grandmother. My grandmother had Alzheimer's. And Shanti was one of the last people who would visit semi regularly. And we're talking, and Shanti is being jealous that my grandmother has great grandkids because my kids were relatively young then. They were running around. And I said, yeah, but I mean, you've got gold records. And she got the wickedest smile I have ever seen as she went, platinum, actually. They're in the kitchen. And then as we talk further, I mean, she was frustrated because both of her kids were in dedicated long term relationships and no interest in having children. And both of her kids were working artists. Kim Thile was in Soundgarden, though at the time he was actually Soundgarden had broken up and not gotten back together. So he and Chris Novoselic from Nirvana were playing gigs all over Seattle under a different name every night because they didn't want any part of the fame, but they
They want
also didn't need the money.
music. Yeah,
um, and her daughter lived in New York and was a working poet. Who manages to be a working poet? So I'm sitting there going, no, you didn't get grandkids, and yes, that sucks. But who manages to have two children who succeed as working artists?
true. My kids are all going into STEM.
Right.
I've been told
I,
I'll have grandchildren that read. Although
yeah.
my kids read. But yeah, it's tough. They don't.
So we've talked music. So give me the same for a musician or an album.
Uh,
Somebody that
to
you
me, that's even harder.
well, and again, it doesn't have to be one. Babble for as long as you want. I'll take down all the notes, and if I don't know them, I'll be getting to know them for the next time you come
uh,
on.
I mean, that's again, it's for me, it's impossible to pick a, I'd have to pick a genre or something. What I can say is that I can't say anything. Like, I'm just I'm a very widely eclectic fan of
Well, I
music.
mean, you
Um,
already gave me Valerie June and Alice
yeah,
Smith, so
yeah.
there's a
Alice
pair.
Smith's second album is a pretty obscure thing. I think it's pretty wonderful. But I mean, being deep into the jazz cuts and then also kind of a rock guy. I mean, a big Elvis Costello fan, Tom Waits fan, but
I
also,
love
old
love
country.
Elvis Costello and Tom Waits.
Yeah, Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, again, Billie Holiday.
I've seen Willie
Nothing's
Nelson play
better than
live.
Dexter Gordon. Nothing's better
Actually,
than
my dad, who generally isn't a huge country guy, but likes Willie Nelson and likes going to live performances, loves to tell the story. He saw Willie Nelson at a theater near Traverse City, probably 10 or 15 years ago now. So Willie was only in like his late 60s. Um, but Dad said Willie and the band played for like an hour and a half. And then the band took an hour break, but Willie kept going. Then
yeah.
the band came back for an hour and a half. And then the band went home, and Willie kept going for like 2 hours after that. And he's just like, I don't know how.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
had that kind of energy.
He's a blues musician. I've seen
Just
him
kept
before.
going.
My dad saw him in the 70s. I saw him. I've seen him. I've seen Waylon. I've seen Merle Haggard. I saw Johnny
I've
Cash.
seen Merle. I saw Merle open for Dylan.
Ah, that's a pretty good show. I saw Dwight Yoakam open for Los Lobos, as I mentioned.
Los Lobos is on my hit list.
I wrote a
And
song
they
that David
play.
Hidalgo did for our last film for Windows on the World. I wrote a
Okay,
song and got to produce him
very
singing the
cool.
song for our thing, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, I felt you're gonna love this as a baseball guy. You know when I fell in love with Los Lobos? They have a song in a very famous baseball movie.
Which okay, I'm trying to think of which baseball film it would be too. 'Cause it would have to be a more modern one, or else they're trying to use. Did they use like a version of like them covering Richie Valens or something
No, it was before that.
for a baseball film that they're using it?
Huh?
That's a good trivia question, man.
Huh?
Uh, I'm trying to think of like, I mean, they wouldn't
I'll
have
give
used
you a hint. The song
Durham.
was "I Got Loaded." So it's
Oh,
even off of How Would the Wolf Survive, the
yeah.
album that you've got in the
Yeah, yeah. Last night I got loaded on a bottle of gin, on a bottle of gin. So not Bull Durham.
yes, Bull Durham.
Okay, there we go. That was
Bull
my
Durham.
call. That makes
Bull
sense.
Durham. Yeah, it's when they're
Dancing
uh
around naked, like are they
no, the the rain out
ah
when they're flooding the ball field
okay. That makes sense.
and they're doing their slip and slide all over in the mud. Yeah, that's when I fell
I
in
don't
love with
remember
those
that. Yeah, I
songs.
don't remember. It's funny because I remember music coming in, I'm very attuned to like the music and certain things. That didn't register for whatever reason.
Bull Durham has a
We figured it out.
really impressive soundtrack.
Yeah, that was back when you can get stuff, or you could, you knew people at Columbia and you'd pay one price,
Yeah.
and you could get like what you wanted, I think. Like, otherwise we had to
No,
make
it's
our
gotten harder.
soundtrack. We had to make our soundtracks for our films, which was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
And all my jazz friends kind of jumped in, and my friend Les Claypool and Charlie Muscle
Oh,
and some other people. Like, they were all really nice to lend their skill set to things. It was pretty fun.
those are both fantastic musicians.
They are fantastic musicians. Absolutely. Absolutely. Nobody
Oh,
sounds like Les. Nobody sounds like Charlie,
no, I love Charlie.
who plays on the
Really?
Tom Waits Filipino box spring hog. He plays on a bunch of Tom Waits stuff too. The Blind Boys, and I mean, his Cristo Redemptor, that's as good as anything's ever been. Like he's fantastic. Uh, but yeah, who knows? Everything from James Brown to opera, man, and you haven't touched the
All right.
classical world and
So
stuff. So
so
music,
so since
music, 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 always.
so so and you can wind up using the opera here. We talked briefly. You wrote uh the Death of Teddy ball game, so you've done theater as well.
Yep.
Give me a play or a musical or an opera
Okay,
where
the
you're on
best
the
musical, I mean, the
stage.
best theater I've ever had, by far was being in New York, and I lived there for like 5 years off and on, and I got to go see Angels in America twice when it first came
Okay.
out there, and I got to see Steven Spinella, who ended up being in Windows on the World, which was a complete thrill. Uh, and Jeffrey Wright played Belize,
Okay.
and oh my God, Ron Liebman played Roy Cohn. It was just at the time as good as theater's ever been. It was funny to the mythical to the sad. And again, going back to like part of where this comes from too, sitting in the Castro during the AIDS epidemic, like is huge. It's just beautiful, wonderful writing. I also got to see I saw the two people acting on stage one time, that may be one of the best things I've seen that way. Just two people was it's there's more people in it, but A Delicate Balance with Eileen Atkins and oh my God, what's her name? Dame
Oh, Edward Out.
uh another not Judi Dench. It was Eileen Atkins and oh God, my mind's shot. You can't say something's the greatest thing you've ever seen. Now your mind's shot. You can't even like
I
pull it.
understand how that
Yeah,
goes.
I just,
I
that's
mean, we've been talking for a couple of hours, and
I feel like I have
yeah,
Rolodexes too, and they're all wet. So one
yeah,
says
I get it.
theater, or it's,
Yeah, I
you
get it.
know, you know,
Memory's a weird thing. We can go off on a whole thing on memory because
yeah,
that's one of my geek things.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, no,
all
it's
right. The important question, the one that I ask everybody on
USA trilogy for novels, probably amongst,
USA
Underworld and
trilogy.
Absalom,
Oh,
Absalom, Flannery O'Connor's short stories, stuff like
okay.
that. Super influential.
I'm glad that
Milano's
you
2666, I really loved.
are glad that you remembered to do that because as I was moving into my always ask question, because it's a comics podcast, which is the comic that you love that not enough people love.
Well, you know, it'll be
What
really
are
interesting. And
you
what's
talking about?
well, I mean, I've been really going to school on the Alison Bechdel stuff, which I think is
Oh,
just
I love Allison
unbelievable.
Bechtel.
She's
Yeah.
so good. She's so good. And then, Fantagraphics is our publisher, so I read all the Paco Roca stuff.
Oh, I
Holy
love Paco
shit,
Roca.
that
Yeah.
stuff! I was crying.
Yeah.
I was breaking down. The one about the house. Oh my
Uh-huh.
God, that was just killing me.
I
I
love
just
Paco
think it's
Roca.
super wonderful. And then Fantagraphics again to push my publishing company one more time. I was really blown it because I'm kind of a shit disturber. Uh, I don't know if you've read The N Word of God yet by the guy that did the icons for, I think he pronounced his name Dukes, but it's Doox. And he did the icons for the Church of John Coltrane out here.
Right.
That is some very,
I
very
have
interesting
not
work.
yet, but it's
Yeah,
definitely been
read it next and like
on
have
my
a
list.
conversation about that one because he is not he's going for it, and
Right.
it's whether you agree or disagree with what he's doing, it's heady shit and really very 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 good. And I laughed my ass off, and I thought deeply, and I thought about a couple things that I never would have occurred to me.
Well, and I always like it when things make me think. That's
Yeah,
really really important
and
to me.
feel and think.
Um,
So yeah.
ah, he went to Columbus College of Art and Design. I was just talking to Jeff Smith yesterday, who also started at the Columbus College of Art and Design before
Oh, nice.
moving to Ohio State.
Yeah, I wonder. Well,
That's where my friend started.
it's an interesting thing because it's again, it's not typical storytelling.
Mm. Well, and that's one of the things that I adore about um, comics as a medium is that it's near limit. I mean, your
Yeah, no,
only limits are your imagination.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
You
There's a
know.
few things I'm going to be working on with other people. I plan on doing a bunch more because there's so much permission there, and it seems like the audience is really, really interested in a lot of the things and taking trips with other
Yeah.
people that other audiences aren't. And
Well, and it's still a growing audience. I mean, one of the
here it
reasons
is.
that I
When we were in
started
France,
this.
I have to say, man, France is super
Oh,
hip
there.
to it.
Oh,
And we got to go to
France is all over
oh
comics.
yeah. And John and
That
I got to go to the big convention in Angoulême. I'm going to print from
Angoulême. You got to go to
Angoulême. Thank you.
Angoulême.
Yeah.
Oh, that's on my bucket list, man.
It was awesome. And
That's what
everybody
I've
did.
heard.
It
That's
was
what I've
they
heard.
all cared. The artists were amazing. They're all just laying out 10, 20 minutes for free, like drawing in your books and
Well,
stuff.
and they
Books are beautiful. They
it,
bother
it
to make like,
it's all about the comics, not the pop culture, and it's
totally.
all through town. Actually, I was talking, like I said, with Jeff Smith. Do you know Jeff Smith? Jeff Smith did probably one of the best-selling comic books ever, a book called Bone.
Yes. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, Jeff Smith did Bone. Bone actually started as a comic strip at the Ohio State Lantern,
Oh wow.
and then when he couldn't get syndicated as a comic strip artist, um, he decided to try to do it as a comic book, and he was like the one of the early. He and Vijaya actually created their own publishing company, Cartoon Books. They completely self-published, and it was among the most successful self-published comics ever, aimed at like teenagers and college kids. And then
Yeah.
Scholastic, when they started their graphic novel line,
Uh-huh.
almost 15 years after he was done with Bone, 20 years after he'd started Bone, they thought, oh, this would be perfect for. And he's like, it wasn't written for kids. And I'm like, oh, yeah, yeah. And he's like, that there's like drinking and smoking in it, and some mildly adult. Hey, yeah, we think it's all ages. We think it'll be fine. Blah blah blah. He's like, as long as you understand, I'm not changing anything.
Right.
And of course, they're in New York about to sign the deal, and like he gets a call from the editor because they've just talked to the book club people, and he comes and there's the whole thing with notes. He's like, what did I say? And he says, this was the moment we knew we were in the right place. The editor said, that's what I was hoping you'd say. I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it.
Nice. Well,
And it's
Mikhail at Comics Initiative in France is steeped in it, and his other artists are unbelievable. And then being there amongst all those people, I was like, wow, this isn't high school. These
right,
are my people. These people
right.
are taking time to be thoughtful,
But
to connect. There's
what,
nothing to do with commerce, I have to
right,
say. Like they don't care if they're like, it's not,
right.
why we're here. We're here to create art. We're here to connect with
Well,
the
and they have a government that will give them grants for that.
yeah, yeah, we should too. I mean, we,
We should too. We
we
absolutely
we
should
don't.
too.
I was
Um, but where I was going is Comics Crossroads Columbus is the um convention that Jeff helped found, and
okay.
it's in conjunction with the Billy Ireland Cartoon Art Museum at OSU, which is the largest repository of original comic and cartoon art in the United States. Milt Caniff, who did Terry and the Pirates, and Steve Canyon started it when he donated all of his stuff. Bill
Kent
Watterson
State
donated
is in
to
Ohio, right? I always get it because
yeah.
back to
Kent State is in Ohio. Durf Beck Durf,
yeah, that's what I was just going to say.
who did the Kent State
Yeah,
graphic novel,
I'm on
and
the Penn Oakland board, and I got that a Josephine Miles Award because
yeah,
I thought that was
yeah.
fantastic.
He Durf has been on the show too, and Durf and Jeff were at Ohio State at the same time. They were both working for the Lantern for a couple of years. Durf doing political cartoons and Jeff doing his Thorn. Um, so yeah, it's this little. So if you're ever just, I mean, certainly you should think about applying to go there. I mean, in terms of like, if there was a con to table at in the United States that would be perfect for your type of stuff, there's SPX, there's TCAF up in Toronto, there's a couple of others, but CXC would be like way up your alley in terms of
The people and
the
the books and
well, and what makes them really great is I don't know if you've been around enough of the comics community to see that we sometimes get too fractured. It's like the people who are indie people don't like the people who are creator owned but not completely independent, and the creator owned people don't always get along with the superhero people, and
right.
at CXC this year you had Shelley and Philip Bond, who did a ton of stuff at Vertigo. Philip did stuff at 2000 AD and Deadline in the UK. You had Dennis Kitchen, who like Dennis Kitchen was the publisher of Kitchen Sink Comics. He's the one that published Howard Cruz.
Hmm.
Um, if you don't know Howard Cruz, get to know Howard Cruz. You'd like Howard Cruz. Um, you had P. Craig Russell, who helped adapt Carmen and did tons of stuff with Neil Gaiman. You had people who literally made their comics at Kinko's and stapled together, all tabling, and you had Raina Telgemeier was there, you know, all in the same place, free.
Well,
The,
that was
the
getting
tables, the
yeah.
tables were at the public library,
Yep. That's the same. And although
right?
in England it went on forever, we were at one
Yeah,
other
yeah.
one
It's like a
too in a
2 week
small
thing,
town.
isn't it?
It's a
and
long.
and
It took
and
over the
and,
whole
and they
town.
also give residencies
Yeah.
to our I've known a couple of people who got
It's
Angoulême
pretty amazing.
residencies.
It
Yeah,
was really such a good feel. I mean,
yeah,
just a really good feel. But
totally on my bucket list.
pack.
Yeah.
You know what? I actually have to. Because I have the kids. I have to
I
run
was about to say I'm about to
to
wrap us
the.
up, so
Sorry about that.
we could talk forever.
I
I'm
know we
certain
can talk forever.
we got to
We'll keep it alive over the email and stuff too. I'm
I will.
send you a
I
clip.
will. I will email back and forth. I feel like I need to send comics your
Yeah,
direction. You're
well, I
writing
would
great
love.
comics. I feel like you need to read
I
more.
think much more. Yeah, if you could give me a top 10, 20 or something that you feel like
I
that I
mean, it's going to be
you know,
hard, but
yeah,
I'll try to think of stuff that I know you like. Right off the top of my head, you
you
should
go.
definitely go check out, and I even have them both right here because you're a jazz man.
Yep.
And Dave Chisholm not only does great jazz comics, but he's a PhD in jazz trumpet, so he knows where He
Oh,
teaches a
okay.
jazz and comics class in Rochester. So his new one is called Miles Davis and the Search for the Sound.
Okay.
And it's just ridiculous. But the one I adore, and these are both from Z2 Comics. Um, he did a book last year that Blue Note commissioned for their 80th anniversary, and he was all ready to do a nonfiction. They said, no, we want a fiction. So he like literally BS'd his way through the meeting and then turned in this book called Enter the Blue.
Oh,
It's
wow.
all about
That looks super
creation
beautiful.
and
Super beautiful. Oh, wow. Who put that out?
Z2 Comics.
Okay. Good.
Z2 actually does a lot of licensed music stuff.
Oh, okay.
The other thing right off the top of my head that I'll recommend, and it's another person who works in Hollywood. He does animation. Um, Stefan Frank, Stefan Frank, book called Palomino.
Huh.
It's
Okay.
a murder mystery, but it's also set against the Palomino Honky Tonk Club in L.A.
Yeah, yeah.
in the early '80s,
Palomino Club too. I think it was a strip club.
and he did just an absolute. I mean, just people talk sometimes about how comics can't do sound or music, and these are the ones
Yeah.
that I pull out to say yes, they can. You
Yeah.
wind up hearing and feeling the music if it's done right. But yeah, I will definitely give you more. But
Okay.
those are oh, and as a literature guy, if you haven't read Ryan North and
Write it all down here.
I always forget the
Ryan North.
artist Ryan. I mean Ryan North is worth reading always because he's just hilarious. But he adapted with um, Albert Montes. They adapted Slaughterhouse Five.
But they just did a version of Slaughterhouse Five at Arian Press, which is really beautiful too. That Vincent Valdez did. I don't know if you know Vincent Valdez. He's a painter and
Not off the top of my head, but but
unbelievable.
but it's a full comics adaptation.
Okay.
And I mentioned earlier that I can't make pictures in my head. Um,
It's a Slaughterhouse
so
Five.
so what I always like to say about Slaughterhouse Five is I loved the Vonnegut book.
Huh?
I loved it. And when I first heard it was being adapted, I'm like, how do you do that? But it was Ryan North and I trust him. And when I read it, I'm like, oh, now I realize why everybody loves Slaughterhouse Five. It
Mm.
was having the good adaptation that that would fill the holes in my brain that weren't able to make certain pictures or whatever that made me go, oh fuck, this is amazing.
I remember back in high school, I mean, I probably read 10, Vonnegut books I
Mm-hmm.
always, God bless you, Mr. Rosewater
Yeah,
was
great
a
one.
great one
I
too.
love Vonnegut, period. But those are off the top of my head, but I will
Okay,
certainly come up with more
got it.
for you.
Okay.
Oh, and since you're a fan of graphics, get them to grab anything from Love and Rockets.
Oh
Highly
yeah, no, no,
recommend
yeah,
always.
no, yes, yes. Again, I'm a pretty eclectic guy in
Right,
like I don't say read prison fiction, but because I read novels over my time, I probably read like 30, 40 prison novels. Like
right.
so just because I haven't been reading graphic novels or something, it's not as if I haven't read some as we go.
I I
So so
figured, but
so
I just
Love and Rockets I was hip to a long time ago and read.
I always hope because they're brilliant.
No, they're super brilliant, super
They're
brilliant.
I don't we do not quite weekly because it's hard to get us all together weekly, but we do close to weekly Love and Rockets book club where we've been reading
Oh,
issue
great.
by issue. We've gone through the first 40. We regularly talk for 2 hours about one issue of Love and Rockets.
You can do it, and in some ways too. I'm just starting to attack some work about my dad's group home in the 60s, the radical
Okay.
60s here in the Bay Area with the, whatever, the Black Panthers and the Weathermen and Brown Power movement
Well,
and stuff.
I was mentioning my friend Marcus Kwame Anderson. He and David Walker, before they did their Big Jim and the White Boy out in October,
Uh-huh.
they did and won an Eisner Award for the Black Panther Party, the
Oh, okay. Yeah.
um, graphic novel history is
It-
fantastic.
the Love and Rockets guys give you a lot of permission to be able to take certain things on, have characters come out, have
Oh
them use
yeah,
color character. So that
yeah,
is like, I was like, wow,
yeah,
thank
yeah.
you for doing that on top of
Well,
everything else. But like,
right.
just
Thank you
so.
so much.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank
Robert,
you,
it
by the
has
way.
been an absolute blast. We will have to find excuses to bring you back.
Yeah,
We
for
do
sure.
book clubs. We do a baseball roundtable, and certainly anytime you have something to plug, please come back.
Okay, yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
but I'll try to stay in touch. And
Especially if the Giants are above 500 next time we talk.
hey, I mean,
Anything's
I
possible this year.
this has been a weird year. I like the Giants.
I love that. Yeah,
This
I
year.
like
No,
them.
I like their team specifically. That
We got three
they've
arms.
had a rough
We
yeah,
got
they've
three
had a rough
arms. If
start,
Snell comes
but
back, and then we got the Cy
right,
Young guy that's supposed to come back, and then
right.
Cobb needs to get healthy. But League
Yeah,
had
I
to
don't know how much
kind
Cobb
of
has
insist the
left,
field.
but I like Kyle Harrison a lot. I like some of your you got some
Webb,
good
Webb,
up
Webb can throw.
Webb is great.
Yeah,
You've got some other
all off. As a
very interesting upper farm system arms.
yeah. Well, we'll see how
Um,
it all goes. But
see
I
indeed.
saw Tawny out there in his first pitch. He just smacked like,
I was in
I mean,
Milwaukee last year when
wow.
he hit a home run that went 189 feet in the air
Uh-huh.
and 412 feet to center.
Wow. I
I
used to
mean,
see
think of
Bonds.
the
Yeah,
arc. Think
Bonds
of the
question.
arc for that.
Yeah, I mean, Otani just has that body, but I saw Bonds do some
Oh, I
amazing.
loved Bonds.
I mean, he was.
I mean, I'm
They would
sad
throw
about
that guy
how all
one
that
strike a
ended,
game, and he
but
would hit it out.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
He's by
I
far
mean,
the
he's
best
been
hitter ever.
walked with the bases loaded more than like the next three guys
What
combined.
did they say about Stanton Musial? The best way to get him out was to walk him on four pitches and try to pick him off.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Sounds about right. That's like the reverse of how you ever you know who the top of Nolan Ryan's single like you know who struck out the most against Nolan Ryan.
Mm,
It's particularly ironic because he's not known as a guy who strikes out, and they were teammates for 5 years.
okay, that's an interesting one. So I got to think because you remember he played all those years with California too before he went to
Yeah,
Texas.
They were teammates with California,
Okay,
and he retired way before Nolan did. He was
Barry
with
Bonds,
Minnesota when he
Bobby
did all of it.
Bonds.
No, he was with Minnesota when he did all of his striking out against Nolan, and
So
known as a contact hitter. Won a few batting titles.
there's a contact hitter out of there, Minnesota. So the Twins, who the hell out of there was like he wouldn't have played with Puckett.
No,
It's not going to be that late of the Twins. It's got to be earlier
it
Twins
was
than
early Twins.
Tony Oliva. No.
Rod Carew.
Oh, Rod Carew.
Yeah. You
Rod
know
Carew.
what Rod
Yeah, he's
Carew
an angel. Yeah, that's totally
you know
right.
what Rod Carew said when he was told that he was the single highest strikeout victim? He said, "You guys didn't know Nolan when he was young. He threw hard and nobody knew where the hell it was going.
That's
It's
right.
a long season.
Yeah.
My strategy against Nolan was go up, swing at three pitches. If I hit one, great. Otherwise, it was safer on the bench."
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. He was no bullshit. He was brilliant. That's why people, I was talking to my son about sports and stuff too. It's like, you don't understand. Like, people were standing up against Bob Gibson, man. He had like five guys in a row. You don't even have a helmet on. Like
Though
it's all
you know what? Gibson hit way less people than most people think he did. He never led the league and hit batsmen.
people are still rubbing their fucking, arms.
Oh, I'm not saying he wouldn't knock you back, but he I mean he's kind of like Satchel Paige. Satchel Paige didn't hit you unless you wanted to, and
Yeah.
he didn't actually see an upside to hitting you. Scaring the shit out of you is
Other people,
different from
if
hitting
I'm
you
not mistaken, it's a little bit like Kareem, where they, outlawed dunking for a while there in college. Like, I think they lowered the mound because
because
his
of Gibson. Oh yeah,
because
oh
of,
yeah. I mean, it was that was the year where
That's amazing.
the league ERA was under 3.
Those guys were bringing it, man. They're gonna get to,
Well, and the curveballs were
around.
ridiculous, and from 15
Or
inches up rather
Blyleather.
than 12. Yeah, Koufax.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
we'll definitely have to have you
Gaylord
back
Perry and
for the
stuff, they're
baseball.
snotting on the ball,
Oh yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know. Or what's his name? Mike Scott for bringing up the Astros. Mike
yeah.
Scott, man, that guy was a
Mike Scott had a couple of great years there.
but without the Emery board, who knows?
Yeah, well, you know,
Anyway, I'm not
my
above
guy was
it.
Maddox. I grew up on Maddox.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Well, I saw so much because they became whatever America's team, sort of the Braves, like,
yeah,
they were so good, like with
yeah, yeah. I
Lavin and
mean,
Smoltz. Who's better than who goes to the bullpen and has a career in the bullpen like that? You know what I mean? Smoltz.
Eckersley.
Yeah, but Eckersley didn't have anywhere near the career, as a starter that Smoltz had. I mean, he wasn't lights out. I mean, he had a couple of good years.
Rob Nyer just wrote about that, and Rob was writing about the fact that he was a much better starter than we remember, given how good of a reliever that he was.
He had probably what, 2 20-game seasons with good teams, right?
Um,
You know what? That could be my
this is
memory too.
easy to
I didn't
forget.
get to see him when he was because that was, that's a little before my fucking time. But I mean, I saw him all the time with the A's when he was,
All right.
just mopping up,
I
man.
saw him a little bit with the Cubs. He had a
Yeah.
hell of a year for the
Well,
Cubs
Rick
in the
Sutcliffe. How about Rick Sutcliffe? Let's not.
Oh, I loved watching Sutcliffe.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
Truly, again, I hate the
for
Red
the
Sox,
Cubs in
but
'84, he had a 3.03 ERA and was 10-8
we're,
in 24
but
starts. He only won 20 once, but I mean, he was a
I mean, how
consistent
many years did
workhorse.
Smoltz win 20? Or like, I mean,
Well, I mean, but he was on Atlanta teams. Who didn't win 20 on those teams?
those
I
pitchers
mean,
were
Smoltz was never better than the third best hit pitcher on any of those teams.
Avery. Remember Avery too?
I do. I remember Avery.
That guy could throw
I
too.
I had I had Steve Avery's Topps #1 draft pick card, so I know his high school stats because they were on the
Oh,
back of the card. His
wow.
senior year in high school, he had a .27 ERA.
Wow. Someone took him deep once.
Yeah. So Robert, it was a blast. This has been 22 panels. We will see you after the next page.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Hey guys, this is Tyler from 22 Panels. I'm here to tell you all about our Patreon. If you enjoy this show, please consider donating to our Patreon to keep this show going. We have many different tiers, all different levels to help you decide what's right for you. Okay, so get on out there to patreon.com/22 Panels Podcast.